Mom, it's Eliot. Why is he being arrested as the big fish? And why are they calling him Tom Buchanan? I don't know.
The Way Home just delivered the most perfectly constructed 1-2 punch of its entire run. An answer we have been waiting for all season. And then a betrayal hiding inside the man we thought we knew best. And I honestly sat with the final image of this episode, Kat standing in Eliot's room holding a newspaper with his photograph and someone else's name underneath it, for a very long time before I felt ready to say anything about it. Because this show just changed everything we understood about a character it has been quietly building a secret around for the entire final season. Let's talk about everything that happened in Working My Way Back to You. The chess game that finally explains Sam. What Casey revealed to him in a park a year ago. And what it cost her to do it. Why Dell's memory coming back is the most quietly earned emotional moment of this entire season. What Alice decided about her future. What Casey's reappearance in Port Haven means. And then the ending, Eliot's sabbatical, the round glasses, the newspaper, the name that is not his. Because 3 episodes remain before this series finale. And the show just told us that the person Kat loves most has been living a completely different life in the past without telling her. First, the chess game, because the episode opens with this and it reframes everything that follows. The show takes us back roughly a year. Sam is playing chess alone in a park, and Casey sits down across from him. And for Sam, this is their first meeting. He has never seen this person before. But from Casey's perspective, from the perspective of someone who grew up in a future where Sam is a fully present figure, this is a reunion. Sam taught Casey to play chess, which means at some point in the future, Sam and Dell are settled enough together that he is teaching her grandchild how to move pieces across a board. Casey reveals they want legal advice about whether an old document will still hold up in court. Sam clarifies he is retired. Casey announces checkmate. Casey insists that Sam needs to be the one to help. Sam asks how Casey knows so much about him and the way he plays chess. Casey explains that they haven't met yet from Sam's perspective, but Sam was the one who taught them to play chess. Casey then reveals they are from the future and needs Sam's help to save Dell's farm. Sam believes them and jokingly asks if Casey knows if he and Dell end up together. Casey hesitates and anxiously grips a chess bishop. That hesitation, that hand on the chess bishop. Casey could not answer, not because the answer is no, but because confirming a person's entire future to them in a park before it has happened is the most destabilizing gift you can give someone. Casey wanted to tell him and chose not to, and I honestly think that restraint is one of the most quietly powerful things this show has written all season. Casey came back in time to save Dell's farm, but she was careful enough to understand that giving Sam everything would have changed the way he showed up in Dell's life. He needed to choose her freely, which is exactly what he did. In the present day, Sam and Casey are again playing chess at Max and Alice and Alice's board, and I want to stop on that detail. Max and Alice's board. The chess table Max had inscribed for Alice in the park, the physical object that represents the most complicated, almost relationship of Alice's life this season, and Sam and Casey are playing on it. In the present, as if it belongs to the future version of this family as much as it does to the current one. Now, Kat returning from 1925. Because the episode does not let her rest even for a moment. Kat returns to the present and tells Dell about her last visit. She is especially concerned about leaving Eliot alone in 1925. Dell tries to remind her that the pond has its reasons for bringing people places, and that maybe Eliot needs more time with his mother. And this is the moment that will haunt the end of this episode differently than it did when it happened. Because Dell is right that the pond has reasons. But the reason Eliot is still in 1925 is not the gentle, mysterious reason Dell is imagining. It is a calculated, deliberate reason that Eliot put in place himself. And when the newspaper clippings come at the end of the episode, this conversation between Kat and Dell is going to land on every viewer all over again with different weight. Kat is afraid to leave for New York with Alice while Eliot is still in 1925. Dell suggests they talk when Alice returns from work. Kat senses Dell is stressed. Dell explains she is unsure what to do about Sam, especially because she spent so much time dreaming about Colton during the accident. Kat reminds her that nobody can compete with a dream and that Colton would want her to be happy in the real world. And I want to sit with Kat saying that. Nobody can compete with a dream. Because Kat knows this from the inside. She has watched Dell choose the memory of Colton over the living, breathing present of Sam all season. And she also knows, because she has watched her mother lose everything and rebuild, that Dell is someone who deserves more than living inside a beautiful grief for the rest of her life. Colton would want her to be happy. That is not just comfort. That is Kat releasing something she has been holding for a very long time about her own father's memory and what his absence should and should not cost her mother. Now, Alice and Casey, and the decision that this show has been building toward all season. Alice returns home and finds Casey wandering out near the farm. She tells Casey that she decided to defer after their talk. Defer. College. The thing that has been pulling Alice between her future and her present and the people she loves in both directions. She is staying. And the reason she is staying is a conversation she had with a time traveler from her own family's future who came back specifically to make sure certain things happened in the right order. And I honestly think Alice deferring is the most correct and the most complicated thing she could have done, because she is not deferring out of fear. She is deferring because something in Port Haven is not finished yet. And Alice Landry has always understood, better than almost anyone, that you cannot leave before the story you are part of has said everything it needs to say. Alice goes back to 1979 and stumbles upon a New Year's Eve party with young Dell, young Colton, and their friends. And she treads carefully. Because this is Dell and Colton in the time before everything changed. Before the baby they lost. Before the years of grief and silence and rebuilding. And Alice is watching them be young and alive and in love at a New Year's Eve party and carrying knowledge about what is coming that she cannot share. And the episode uses that visit in a way that connects directly back to the present. Alice comes home carrying what she witnessed. And when she sits with Dell, the Dell who is right now trying to decide whether to open her heart again, Alice shares what she knows about the lost Dell experienced in 1979. The pregnancy nobody in the present knew about. The grief Dell carried completely alone. And I think that conversation is the final piece that helps Dell choose. Because hearing that someone she loves knows about her most private loss and is telling her that she deserves something new anyway is the most specific form of permission Dell has ever received. And then the Sam resolution, which I honestly think is one of the most earned romantic payoffs this show has ever produced. Dell had told Sam she loved him right before he saved her from the field after Stormy threw her. She had forgotten it because of the fall and the concussion and the weeks of recovery that followed. And Sam knew. Sam has been waiting all this time for her to remember, not reminding her, not pressing. Just being present and patient. And there every time she needed him while carrying the knowledge that she had already said the thing he most needed to hear. And when Dell finally remembers, when that moment comes back to her, she goes straight to Sam's house. She tells him she remembers everything. Sam is overjoyed. They share a long kiss. And the mystery that has been sitting under Sam's presence all season is resolved. Sam is not a time traveler. He is just a man who knows about the future because Casey told him. A good man, chosen by a girl from the future to be in the right place at the right time. And good enough, patient enough, steady enough to earn what that placement offered him. And Noah, who comes back to Port Haven and tells Alice nothing has to change. And I want to be honest, Noah is not wrong to try. But the Alice who left for the summer and the Alice standing in Port Haven right now are not the same person in the ways that matter. And whatever Noah is offering, continuity, familiarity, the safety of something she already knows, it is the wrong answer to the question Alice is actually asking. Despite her misgivings, Alice needs to move forward. And Noah is not the one to get her there. And I honestly think some part of Alice already understands this. Even if she has not said it to Noah yet. And even if Max still owes her an apology for what he said at the Cove before he has any right to be the alternative. And Casey reappearing in Port Haven. Casey's sudden reappearance in Port Haven sparks new questions. A time traveler who came back specifically to make sure certain things happened. Playing chess with Sam at Alice's table. Still present in a story that should, by every structural logic, have sent her home by now. And the question of why Casey is still here is one the show has 3 episodes to answer. Now, the ending. And this is where Working My Way Back to You stops being one of the best episodes of this season and becomes one of the most important hours of the entire 4-season run. In the episode's last minutes, Kat finds out that Eliot scheduled a teaching sabbatical. A formal sabbatical. Not a spontaneous disappearance, not an accident. An official request filed through his university. Eliot planned to be gone. He planned it formally and filed the paperwork and did not tell Kat. And the implications of that before Kat even opens the door to his room are already significant. Because this is a man who made a professional arrangement for an extended absence that he never mentioned to the woman he is in a relationship with. Whatever Eliot is doing in the past, he planned it carefully enough to protect his career while he was there. In his room, Kat and Alice find dozens of newspaper clippings from the past. Every article has Eliot's picture, but the name under the photo is not Eliot. The newspapers call him Tom Buchanan, wearing round glasses, arrested as the Big Fish. The same operation Tessa ran. The same bootlegging network the Augie boys served. And Eliot is in it, not watching from the outside, not investigating from a careful distance. He is in the photographs. He is in the arrest records. He has a name that the 1920s know. Tom Buchanan. LOL. You can take the nerd out of the classroom. An English professor choosing a Great Gatsby alias. The morally compromised man of privilege, who destroys things and escapes consequences, is either the most self-aware or the most telling choice Elliot Augustine has ever made. And I honestly cannot decide which one worries me more. And here's what this means for everything. Eliot pushed Kat to jump into the pond without him in episode 6. He sent her back. He stayed. And this was not confusion or bad timing. This was a deliberate choice by a man who had already filed a sabbatical and already built an identity that the 1920s knew. He did not get trapped in the past. He chose to stay in it. and Kat is standing in his room holding the evidence of that choice. And I honestly think the look on her face in that moment is going to stay with me until this series ends. Could it be Eliot who eventually leaves the inscription "Find me there" and not Tessa? After all, it does not sound like a message Tessa would write. It sounds like something a man who grew up knowing this family and this house would leave for himself to find. And if that is true, if Eliot is not just living in the 1920s, but actively shaping the mystery that brought Kat and Alice and Dell to the pond in the first place, then the show has been building toward this in a way that goes all the way back to the very first season. And nobody knows where Griffin Landry is in the present day, not even Dell. A detail the show has been careful to keep unresolved in a season that has been resolving things. Sam, Casey's purpose, Dell's choice, Alice's college decision. The one person nobody can locate in the present is the man Tessa jumped through the pond with in 1883. And I honestly think the show is not going to let that go without a reason. Episode 8 airs this Sunday, June 7 at 9 p.m. on Hallmark Channel. 3 episodes left. 3 Sundays. Stream the next day on Hallmark Plus. And with Eliot living a double life in the 1920s under a Gatsby alias while wearing round glasses, Dell and Sam finally kissing in the present, Alice staying in Port Haven for reasons even she may not fully understand yet, and Casey still sitting at Max and Alice's chess table long after anyone expected her to. I honestly believe the final 3 episodes of The Way Home are going to be the most complex and the most beautiful things this show has ever produced. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think Eliot chose to stay in 1925 to help Tessa from the inside? Or has the past changed him into someone Kat is not going to recognize when he comes back? Because after finding that newspaper with his face and someone else's name, I honestly do not know which answer is worse. And I think that is exactly where this show wanted us to be with 3 episodes left.